Hello and good evening. It is Wednesday night, November 13th. It's a quarter after 10. The council meeting this evening ran for 2.5 hours. It was a long one. We had a lot of ground to cover, but we got there and we got done with it. We're going to come back to talking about council meetings and length of time in a little bit, but I am taking the advice of a dear friend of mine in Texas. I grew up in Texas, and one of my friends is heavily involved in politics down in Plano, and he does bi-weekly video updates, council reviews, that sort of thing. And lately, there's been some question about council agenda items, so I thought I'd take a page from his book and kind of do a council recap while still fresh in my mind, let you know just the real fast version of what happens so you don't have to go and watch a 2.5 hour video if you don't want to. Everything I say here is purely my own opinion. Um, and sometimes we council members do disagree and we vote differently. So I encourage you, if you want to hear another council member's take on something, please reach out to them and ask them whatever questions you might like. That being said, I'm not going to dwell on every single item. I'm just going to kind of hit the highlight reel, but I'm also going to show you my pumpkin pie tie. For those that don't know, I try to theme my tie for the month of the council meeting. This month, pumpkin pie. I hope you like pumpkin pie. I obviously do. That being said, the first thing that jumps out at me is we did have a resident. She gave her name at the meeting. I will not use her name here just because I don't have permission in this forum to do so. But she had concerns about redistricting of some of the school zones. It appears that some of the kids living on the north side of town, specifically up by like a Trailside, Jackson Run, place like that, are getting redistricted with Lebanon schools and will be attending Central beginning next fall. This is upsetting her, and she said some of her neighbors and fellow Perryworth families because these kids got used to going to Perryworth. Now they're going to be going to a new school. They're going to be split up from their friends and their parent groups. Evidently, fifth graders will be allowed to continue going to Perryworth if they want to, but they'll have to provide their own transportation. We did explain that the council is not in charge of school districts, and I recommended that she go to a school board meeting, have her voice be heard there. We will be happy. Again, I need to speak for myself. I know that other counselors agree with this, though. Cheryl spoke on this in brief as well. I'm happy to go to bat for any of my constituents that live up there or are affected by this and to speak to representatives at the state house, at the state level, and at the school board. But the more voices chiming in, the more weight it carries. So if you are affected by this, if this is something that's important to you, please let it be known. Don't hesitate to go on social media. Don't hesitate to go to these meetings, the school board meetings, and don't hesitate to reach out to other representatives and let them know how you feel about this idea. Um, we let's see here. We had the second reading and the final reading of ordinance 2024-15, which was for some consideration for Peabody East, basically establishing a rental cap of 20% of the units that were there. That's going to make 70 out of the 400 some odd units be eligible for rentals, not counting hardship cases like someone gets deployed or loses a job or divorce or something like that. They can apply for a hardship. The homes that are going to border the western side of Walker Farms are not allowed to be the rentals initially. They could apply for hardship, but they won't be allowed to be rentals initially. Um, and Peabody West was initially approved before I was on council to be an all rental neighborhood, and now it's going to be more of your standard single owner neighborhood. Um, I ended up voting in favor of the text amendment for this to cap it at 20 because they were making voluntary commitments. They were purposely making it more stringent about what they would allow for rentals, and I appreciate that level of cooperation. Although I did ask them to add language that would, if someone got a hardship extension, it would limit it to 2 years before they had to renew that extension, so that someone can't just get an extension and never be heard from again and keep a rental going. Um, we approved a resolution 2024-20, which has to do with the incoming Wally's project. That should start getting underway relatively soon. They got a few more hoops to jump through as far as getting a couple things done and finalized, but that should be coming. I believe they have an aggressive timeline to get some things taken care of in Wally's, so that's exciting for it. We unanimously agreed on a redesign for some of the town street banners. Now, one thing I mentioned, come here, come here.
Okay.
She waited up for me. This is Piper. For those that don't know her, she just turned 13 this past Friday, so I have a freshly made teenager. She does social studies and things like that at school, and every now and then they talk about elections and how they work in the political system. And she sometimes feels like she has an inside track on some of that. So she listens to some of my boring stories, but she's a fair sport about it. She's a good kid. Thanks, baby.
Okay. Sorry, I was just getting a tissue.
You're fine. Um, so we approved a redesign of the street banners. You may have seen some of the red banners. They had gotten a little beat up with the wind. They're now going to be blue. They have a different font. They're going to include pictures from around town to let people know more about the community when they're driving through and to kind of advertise who we are as a community. I did ask that they possibly consider expanding the locations of where these banners are because they're mostly focused in the Anson area. I'd love to see some on the west side of 65. I'd love to see some up at Legacy Core, the major intersections where visitors may come in, not just in Anson. This harkens back to when Anson was first formed. Um, but be on the lookout for those when they get purchased and start showing up. Let us know what you think of the designs. Let's see. We did a couple of housekeeping things for the fire department regarding moving money around to cover overtime and to purchase their new ambulances coming in finally at long last. So that's good. We also did our first read of a ordinance for amending the building department permit fees. Those were last done 10 years ago. Um, there will be um, a second read on that. So I encourage you to go back, look at the agenda, and review those for yourself, especially if you're a prospective home builder or somebody that might be doing something that requires fees. But I will point out that after 10 years of not adjusting these fees, the increases were actually pretty minimal. So that does put us more in line with neighboring communities. What else did we do? We talked about the salary ordinance for 2024. This was for bonuses for staff from town manager on down, and it's based on um, them being with the town and all the changes that they've gone through over the past year. Katie Barr was the one town manager. Katie Barr was the one that put this forward. She wants to encourage people um, to work hard. She wants to see merit bonuses next year, but this year she wanted to give something at the end of the year to thank people for their hard work, especially in a time of so much change when we had four new people hit council. We had a new town manager, new legal. We lost a few seasoned veterans at the town. Um, I'd like you residents to please take a look at those bonuses and make sure that you are good with them. If not, let me know. If you are, let me know. Um, it's more than covered with this year's expenses. It doesn't raise your taxes. It's just part of government outlay. We then began a lengthy conversation about the 2025 salary matrix. So, what a salary matrix is basically what we're going to pay all the employees. And this was the first read, so there is a second read coming up next month. Two gentlemen from the crowd got up and spoke about it, and both of them were not 100% on board with the proposed amounts. Um, they also wanted to ask about the transparency of it, and it's a delicate thing. You know, it's difficult as someone that is elected in to say, "Hey, I'm going to give the position of counselor a pay raise." Um, right now, a member of the town council makes $4,800 a year. That gets down to $400 a month. I know I just spent 2.5 hours at a meeting. I know I spent a lot of other hours getting the meetings ready, having these meetings with developers, having meetings with town staff. A lot of hours goes in the job. Now I knew what the job was when I took it, and I knew what it paid. I am 100% in favor of increasing town council pay. Depending on who you ask, it hasn't been raised since 2004 or 2008. There was two different opinions about that. It needs to get above 5,000, and the reason I say above 5,000, that's only $200 difference. But the reason it needs to go above 5,000 is that is a reporting threshold that with elections and donations and thing that really matters to make sure people are being transparent about who's funding campaigns. Um, the original amount that I had talked to Katie about, and we were getting the salary matrix out, was I have a dog chewing on rawhide right next to me. Sorry for the noise. That I talked to Katie about was 8,000 to 10,000 in that range. I spoke to council. Other counselors had higher amounts in their minds. Some of them did. So then I came and said 10,000 to 12,000. Um, the final suggestion that was on the salary matrix was around that 14,500, 15,000 mark. I can tell you the conversation tonight, that's no longer the number anybody's gunning for. The different amounts that people really got into and discussed was in the neighborhood of anywhere from 7,000 up to 12,000. The budget allows for $60,000 for council pay, which would be $12,000 each for the five of us. That's already been budgeted. Um, it's a big jump real fast, but it also makes up for a lot of years of no increases. And we are a very busy town with a lot of growing going on. That being said, um, I'm not the end all be all of my salary. You are. So if you think that it should be a lower amount, 8,000, 10,000, let me know. Put in the comments or text me, call me, and let me know what you think because I represent you and I want to know what you think and what you think the council should make. Should it be a gradual increase to 16,000? Other communities around us are Lebanon's at like 11.5, Zionsville's at 12, other communities out there at 16, 17, 15. 4,800 is ridiculously low. But how high should we go, especially with one increase? You tell me. So I'd like the feedback on that, please. What else we got? We did the first read for a voluntary annexation of a new property that Braun Group is doing. It's the north side of town. Um, that that we had our first read on that. There in December there'll be a public hearing along with hearing about the fiscal information from that development, and then in January there'll be the final read of that ordinance. So if you have any questions about that, you have time to voice those questions or concerns. You can ask me. You can show up at a council meeting, whatever you want to do on that. Let's see. We approved the budget for the Economic Improvement Board. They are the ones who basically finance the uh, the commuter buses to help get workers into some of the areas of Whitestown, and they are funded by those businesses. Um, we approved an expenditure with Duke Energy for utility relocation for the design for Peters and Hall Street project. As you know, or I hope you know, we are widening and redesigning Peters and Hall Street to help that area thrive and grow and to make getting around there a little bit easier. So doing utility work is going to be necessary to relocate some of those utilities as we widen and move the street around a little bit. We had some other agreements for professional services, for plan review services. We also approved a resolution with the aim of reducing traffic fatalities to zero by 2040. It's a lofty goal, but it's worth trying to do. So put your cell phones down, pay attention when you're driving. We also, this one I'm really proud of. This one was something that I really wanted to see work out. We had a vote, and the majority approved to allow the authority to purchase and acquire property for a public safety training facility. Now, what this is going to be is 48.6 acres located near the wastewater treatment facility. This will be co uh, a co-used facility for both our fire department and our police department. There will be a shooting range for our police. The fire department will have burn towers. There's going to be a pond for practicing water rescue. There's going to be enough property to practice driving some of these big rigs. Police can practice different shooting scenarios and work with their dogs. The idea is over the next several years to build a large pole barn type structure that can house indoor classes of multiple departments and municipalities to come together and learn together. Also, they could section off part of the large building in time and do indoor shoots as well. Being next to the water treatment plant, there's no immediate neighbors, and it's not a area that would be developed for anything real good based on the treatment plant. So I'm excited to see it go to our public safety officers so that they can better train, have more training time, be able to bring other departments in to train with them. After all, I don't want to be negative about this, but in Boone County, it's not a matter of if there will ever be a mass casualty incident, whether that's a giant car accident or, God forbid, a shooting or something like that. It's a matter of when and where it will be, and who it will be involved. And I want our officers and our firefighters trained as much as possible so that they can immediately respond to and eliminate any threats that come up or help those who are hurt if a tornado outbreak comes through, you name it. I want the very best training possible for our officers. And I also feel that having a training facility like that here in Whitestown will be a major benefit to attracting and retaining the great officers and firefighters that we have. So I did vote in favor of that, and I look forward to seeing that work out. Let's see here. We did a few technical things regarding Paget Commons, which has to do with planning of the streets and the infrastructure and how those are paid and how those are reimbursed if bonds don't get approved. We approved an agreement with a Ready Sub agreement to allow for us to move a grant that we had to use from one project to another so that it wouldn't expire. Because if we can use grant money rather than town money, I'm all about it. Um, we approved, this is very exciting, we approved an expenditure to begin designing a new park at the rec site. This does not take over any other promised amenity over there. This is so that we can finally start getting something together so that our beloved residents on the west side of 65 uh, have something to enjoy. This is going to be a really good park. It's going to be something that you're going to enjoy. And we are going to be doing public input sessions to get your say on exactly how you want it to come about. But finally, at long last, we're going to make something of that area. Lastly, we did a vote, and we're utilizing some grant money and some Park Foundation money to finally build up Gateway Park Phase 2. This is where you're going to have a dog park, Whitestown's first public dog park, along with a bunch of amenities in that area, and I'm very excited for you to see that. A hint of things that are coming up. Next month, I'll be making an announcement at the council meeting, but I intend to, as in my role as president, I intend to seek out civil volunteers that want to serve on the committees and boards in Whitestown. We're talking the RDC, the BZA, the Planning Commission, the Fire Board, the Police Commission, that sort of thing. There are some of those positions that are coming up at the end of the year that need to be filled. And in my opinion, we haven't done a great job in the past of looking for new talent that may be interested in helping to serve in that capacity. So I am working on an application, if you will, that residents could submit saying, hey, I want to be on this particular board or committee. And then we as council could review them and possibly find new people to appoint to these positions. I'm all about trying to get people involved, and this is just another step of doing that. So be on the lookout for that. Those appointments are made at our first meeting of the year in January. So I will have about 30 days or so, maybe a little bit more. My Mastiff Daisy. She's a good girl. She's skittish of anybody but me, but she's a big sweetie, about 150 pounds of muscle and a bottomless stomach. The Golden's walking around over here too somewhere, but he's being pretty chill. Anyway, be on the lookout for that. If you are interested in one of those committee or board appointments, please reach out. Let me know which ones you're interested in, and once the applications go live, look for that, and don't forget to put your own name in, and consider serving your community. That's it for now. This went about 20 minutes. That was about what I wanted to do. Boil it down so that you could all hear my thoughts and my take. Sorry if it's a little rough. It's my first time doing it, and like I said, it was about 2.5, almost 3 hour long meeting, and I just got home and it's well past my bedtime. But I wanted to do this while it was still fresh in my mind. I promise I'll clean it up for future ones, make it a little bit more succinct, have a little less ums and uhs as I'm speaking to you. But I want to make sure to communicate to you and give you an outlet to hear from me so that I can hear from you. So thank you so much for the time. Please reach out to me. There's 100 ways to get in touch with me. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much. Dan Patterson, Council President, District 2, signing out. Have a great night.